media. Well, no, he did none of those steps. He started with the media. And he's going to fight Francis Ngannou. But he's tired of these guys that make the MMA guy come to their world. And he's a real fighter himself. He's a true warrior himself. So he's going to go fight Francis in MMA. As long as he fights me in boxing first. That actually happened. He said that. He's such a coward. He's such a coward. Like, there's things that you don't have to do. It doesn't mean you're not courageous. It doesn't mean you're not brave or you're not macho. It can just mean that you're smart. It can mean that you're wise. It can mean that you're tactical. A coward will tell you how brave they are and then be the coward. And that's what Deontay did. All these boxers make these MMA guys come over here and do it in boxing rules. I will go over there and fight him in MMA rules. As long as...
Those are the words of Chael Sonnen as he blasts Deontay Wilder for the recommendation or the suggestion of Francis Ngannou having a 2-fight deal with him, 1 in boxing, 2 in MMA. And what Chael is saying, first of all, Chael pretty much hates boxers. He doesn't have any respect for boxers, so he's a pro UFC MMA guy. Okay, if you want anything to do with MMA, UFC, that's what you go to. He has over 1 million subscribers, yada, yada, yada. But did what he said make sense about Deontay Wilder? Unfortunately, yes. Why? Because coming from a guy that is pro MMA, ex-MMA fighter, you know, and is really not a boxing fan, to be fair. He did say some funny shit. It was funny because, you know, Deontay, and this is the point Chael was making, Deontay made it a credo to do something that no one else has ever done. Meaning, hey, why don't you boxers come over to the cage? And I should do what other boxers don't. They always bring MMA guys to the ring and beat them up. Meanwhile, it's not fair to their sport, okay? Because you can do so many different things with the rules of MMA versus Queensberry rules in boxing, okay? Now, what Chael was saying is like, well, hey, you know, you like, why would you, if that was the whole point you're driving home to fight a person in the cage, why would you make it such a deal breaker to do it first? Why would you have to bring them to your platform first if all you talk about is what boxers do to MMA guys? If anything, if you wanted to make your point known, you should have then wanted to volunteer to go into the cage first. That way, you can ensure that you're doing exactly what you're doing, and that can ensure a second fight. Because who's to say, you know, just because it's on contract doesn't mean you have to absolutely positively do it. You better ask Tyson Fury. You better ask Floyd Money Mayweather against Oscar De La Hoya. You don't have to fight again. No one can technically make you get in anything that you don't want to get in. Okay, you just won't get paid for it, but it doesn't mean you have to do it. It doesn't have slave across the contract. You don't have to do anything, especially when a crossover. See, for all we know, what Chael's saying, Wilder could go in there, knock out Francis Ngannou in the boxing ring and decide, you know what, I don't want to do that cage shit, next. So everything that he was talking about he would do versus what everybody else wouldn't do is a lie, or is a fraud, is a what I call a Big Ten fake out. Because you had him thinking that, hey, I'm going to fight you also and make it fair to you because you're a UFC guy. Meanwhile, I'm lying to you the whole time, but I want you to do it first. It's like, hey, I'll pay you back or I'll do this as long as you do it for me first. That just leaves too much suspicion and untrustworthiness open. Yes, untrustworthiness open. Right? And of course, Chael's clowning that whole notion because anybody could see this with their eyes closed. See, if Wilder knocks out Francis or going on, let's say it does huge numbers. Sure, the UFC guys will see it, but then they're going to want reciprocation. They're going to want Deontay Wilder to crawl his ass in that cage and fight him that way. Versus what we just saw, a guy pulling another guy to a sport that they do not or they're not familiar with. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think of Chael Sonnen ripping into Deontay Wilder, calling him a coward and a powerless dummy. Damn. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunched. Peace.